Hello and welcome to part 3 of Pro Tips when building a rig. In today's lesson I'm going to show you how to add the bolt here on his arm, and we're going to add creases into the arm. We're also going to be adding deformers, so those three things. Now when I painted that arm I chose a red, but it's not the actual red from the design. So if you want the red from the design, which is really what you should be doing, just click on the color pot here, double click, and then go and choose this little eyedropper tool here. It's right there. You're going to click and hold and drag, and wherever the color picker is, you're going to notice that it chooses the color. So you see how the color changes there. So we're just going to go ahead and grab that red, and now we've got that exact red. I'm going to go ahead and close that. And we're going to need the yellow from his lightning bolt here. So I'm going to add a color here, press plus, and I'm going to double click on the color pot and choose this and go and grab the yellow from the lightning bolt. And that looks good. I'm going to make it maybe a little bit more yellow, darker yellow. And then we need to draw that bolt, but we have a little problem. I drew the arm, and now I can't see the bolt. So I'm going to go and find that arm and just turn it off for now. So if you need to find a certain piece in the rig, what you want to do is you want to click on it, and then you want to go over here in the node view and just click on center on selection, which is this little magnifying glass here, and it will take you directly to whichever piece is highlighted. So now that I'm on that form, I can just press D for disable, and it will turn it off, and we'll be able to see the lightning bolt. Now the lightning bolt will be attached to the forearm, so I'm going to give it a new drawing node, Control R. I'm going to type in bolt and click add and close, and we want the bolt to be attached to the forearm, but we also want the bolt to have its own peg. So when you build a rig, a professional rig, you want every single piece on the inside to be on its own, meaning that it will not be drawn, like this lightning bolt will be on its own. I'll be able to click and drag it and move it around. And that's what you want to do for each piece of the character. You don't want to draw details on the inside of a pre-existing piece. So here we go. The bolt, I'm going to give it a peg, and we want the bolt to follow the forearm around. So whenever you move the forearm, the bolt will come along for the ride. So I'm going to connect the bolt to the forearm, and I'm going to connect the bolt right over here at the bottom composite of the forearm here. So now I can go ahead and click on my bolt and go ahead and draw this bolt. But what we're going to do, I'm going to go back to my colors here and grab my black lines, and I'm going to choose another tool called the polyline. So the polyline is inside the shape tools here, and the polyline is the same pen tool as they have in Illustrator and Photoshop. So you can go ahead and just click and then just close the line like that. Very simple. Now you'll notice that my lines are very straight, but the bolt is kind of curved. So we're going to go ahead and curve those lines using the contour editor here. This white arrow up here at the top. And I'm going to hold shift and just curve those lines a little bit. Kind of like that, so that it looks like the bolt is going around the forearm a little bit. If you want to start over, you can hold Alt and just click on the vertices, and the lines will straighten up again. And maybe we can try to do a better job here. Now the resolution on my image is not all that great. When you work for a studio, you'll be given these really high resolution images from the character designers, so it might be a little bit easier to trace things. But yeah, I think that's a good job. I like the bolt. I'm going to grab my yellow, I'm going to grab my paint and just color the inside. Now if you're not able to color the inside, it's because there's a gap in the line, which means that you did not close your lines. And so if you press K, you'll be able to see the lines on the inside. And if you have, like, let's say, I'm going to go ahead and erase. If you have a very small broken line like that, but it might maybe I don't know, maybe it looks like this. If you don't press K, it looks like the line is closed, and then you won't be able to paint it. I'm trying to paint it and it won't paint, and that's because you have a gap in your line. So make sure that that's not the case. Now, if you do have a gap in your line and you just need to connect those two things, you can just, maybe we can just like delete this one here, and then we can grab this one and make the lines cross like so. Now the lines cross, and we can delete the extra vertices, and now the lines are closed. So let's go ahead and color that. And now we have the lightning bolt on its own here. Let's go back to the node view. Let's turn on our forearm. And if I parent up to the hand, it will automatically grab the forearm and the bolt. But if I need to move the bolt, I'll be able to move it around on the arm like that. So let's reset that. Now what we want to do is we want to use the forearm as a cutter or a mask and hide the edges of the bolt. So I'm going to go and grab a cutter. So we're going to go to the node library here. Node library. And we're going to find a cutter. Now, if you don't have a cutter, you can just go to the search bar right over here and type in cutter. And here it is. I'm going to click, drag, and drop it right in here. And I'm going to plug it, I'm going to slide it right into the wire here by holding Alt. So if you hold Alt and just slide it, it will connect. And then what we want to do is we want to use the color art of the forearm as the cutter. So right over here it says CA, which is short for color art. And I'm going to grab a wire from there and plug it into the mask here. So now it looks like this, but it's not what I want. It's hiding the inside and showing me the outside. So I want the reverse of that. So I'm just going to double click on this black mask here on the cutter. Just double click here, and boom, now we have the edges of the bolt being hidden. But we have one more problem, and that is because in the forearm, because the line art, the color art goes up to here, and then the line art goes up to there, right? It's cutting the bolt not all the way, and the bolt is going on top of the line a little bit, and it doesn't look good. So what we want to do is we want this black line to be over top of the bolt. So let's go in the forearm here, and you can see this line art here. What we're going to do is we're going to take part of that line art and we're going to put it in the overlayer. Now it's really simple to do that. You're just going to grab your cutter tool and you're going to grab the middle part of the forearm, and you're going to leave the elbow and the wrist in the line art. So I'm going to cut it, Control X. I'm going to go and paste that in the overlayer, Control V. So now the overlayer looks like that. And now what we want to do is we want to tell Harmony that we want to see the overlay. We want to see it in front of the cutter. So here's my cutter. We can see that the cable is right here. So if we plug the cutter behind the overlay, it will now look like this. Now we have this overlay art on top of the bolt, and it looks nice and clean. Plus, when we bend the arm, we're going to get a crease here. So you see how this line goes over top of the rest of the arm? That's what we want. Now I think that the crease goes a little bit too far, so maybe I can go back in my overlay here and cut part of that line and put it back in the line art right here. So this line is hidden and this line will be on top like that. And now it looks flawless. Now we can do the same thing for the hand here. So you'll notice when you move the hand, oh, I've already done that. I'm going to undo that so we can just So this is your line art in the hand, and we're going to put the line art of the hand into the overlay. So you grab your cutter tool and you leave the wrist line art in the line art. And cut this and paste it in the overlayer. So now it looks like this, and when we bend the hand, we're going to get a nice little crease here. So I'm going to reset that, press R, and it resets. And I think the only thing that's left to do on this arm is some deformers. So let's save that. Oh, I forgot. Because the bolt, this is a fresh peg, we have to set the rotation point on the peg. Now a lot of my students do the same mistake. They leave the fixing of the rotation points for the very end. So they'll rig the entire character and then they'll go back and try to fix all of these rotation points. But what ends up happening is they forget a lot of them, and then the rig is broken and you can't animate with it. So do yourself a favor. This is a pro tip right here. Do yourself a favor. Every time you add a peg, set the rotation point on it right away. Don't say, I'll do it later, because you won't. And it's going to be a hot mess. So the arm looks good. Let's get some deformers going. So this is my forearm here. I would like to see the forearm on its own without the other parts. So I'm going to press Control Y. I have a little display here. I'm going to plug in the display into my forearm. Come up here into my little drop down menu and choose Display To. So here's my Display To. It's only displaying what I want to see here. So now I need my deformers. Now the deformers are right up here. It's a little hammer and wrench right up here. Looks like that. Now if you don't have this hammer and wrench, what you want to do is you want to right click in this gray area and choose deformation. So you right click in the gray area and choose deformation. And you will find these tools here. So we're going to click on the hammer and wrench, and we're going to go to tool properties, and we're going to choose envelope mode. So it looks like this, envelope mode. There are many different types of deformers, but for this particular lesson I'm going to talk about envelope mode. I might do a lesson explaining all of the different ones, but to be honest, this is the one that is used the most in the animation industry. And when I say animation industry, I'm talking about animation for television and movies, not for video games or any other style. So here we have our forearm, and to be able to set the deformers, you need to click on the drawing node, not the peg. Make sure you're on the drawing node. You've got your hammer and wrench here. We're going to click, hold, and drag, and we're going to let go. And we're going to come to the next spot on the arm here. We're going to click, hold, and we're going to drag towards the last one. Click, hold, drag, and release. Now you don't want your deformers handles to be too close to each other, and you don't want them to cross like that. So do that, and you can also adjust it. Now you have to be ultra careful, because if you don't put your mouse directly over top of the vertice, like let's say I want to move this vertice, if I put my mouse over it, I can move it. But what ends up happening is people don't put their mouse directly over it, and then they end up putting extra vertices everywhere, and then it's a hot mess. So be very careful. Deformers are very hard at first. They're very hard to get used to. So this is my pro tip. You're going to click, hold, and drag towards the last one. And then you can adjust after the fact. But be careful that you don't add other vertices, like vertices that you don't need. And you don't want too many vertices either. So here you can see that I'm making the line just hug the artwork. Now it's time to continue the deformer. And if I have this vertice highlighted and I click over here, it's going to link it over here, and that's what you don't want. So make sure that you highlight the proper vertice. So we can see that this vertex here is white, which means it's selected, and this one here is orange, which means it's not selected. So I want to grab this one over here. Apologies for that. So I want to grab this one here and then click, hold, and drag towards the last one. Now, it's really weird how it will, sometimes the deformer will just freak out and you'll get like these super long curves like that. Just don't worry about it, and you can just adjust it. And you want it to hug the artwork as much as possible. I'm going to go here and I'm going to continue. Click, hold, and drag. And then I want to close the envelope by holding Alt and just hovering over the offset. This is the offset here. It's like a little bullseye. So I'm going to hold Alt and just hover, and it will close it automatically. And I'm going to adjust the deformer. So this is a really nice deformer. And there's not too many vertices. Okay, you don't want to have a deformer with 1,000 vertices. Like, I'm going to show you a bad deformer here. I'm just going to unplug this and make a new one. This is what you don't want. This is a nightmare. And while I was working on Disney TV shows, there were some characters that had pieces like this, deformers like that. And to be honest, I couldn't even do anything with it because every time I would pull on it, I would have to pull on 50 of them to get the shape that I wanted. And it still didn't do a good job. The deformer really there were just too many vertices everywhere. So it was a hot mess. So don't do that. Another thing you don't want to do is have the wires cross or the handles cross like that and make them too long. This is also a hot mess. Okay, so now if I try to do anything, you can see that the artwork just breaks because this is telling Harmony, I want you to hold like this area there, and then I want you to pull this area here, and the deformer just doesn't know what to do. So that's what you don't want. You don't want those handles to cross each other. Okay, so we're going to cut that, plug this one back in here, and that's it. This is the deformer. So we're able to just edit the arm very easily if we want to just change the shape of it. And you don't want to bring it too close to the other vertices. Like the vertices are they're like neighbors, you know. Good fences make good neighbors. You don't want them to start fighting over an area because it makes a mess. So if you want to reset your deformer, you can just click on the deformer here and come right up here to this spot, reset current keyframe. Now if you don't, this is part of the deformers here, so we can click on that and it resets the deformer. Nice and neat. And now I can remove my display here because I don't need it anymore. So I can just cut it out, and then we can see the forearm again. So now if I do this, and I want to change maybe the shape of the arm a little bit, or curve it a little bit, then I can do that. And that's what envelopes do. They allow you to warp the drawing if you need to. And if we need to reset it, we can just click on it and come over here, reset that. And if you want to reset the pegs, you can click on the object and hit R for reset, and then parent up and hit R for reset. And it resets everything nice and neat. So I think I'm going to add some deformers on the shoulder because the shoulder will not work. Like if I do this, you can automatically tell that the shoulder it looks broken. So we're going to need a deformer on that shoulder. So I'm going to go and find that shoulder. I'm going to click my magnifying glass. Here's my shoulder. And I think I'll be okay. I don't think I need a display for that. I think I can just do it like that. And what you want to do, the one thing about the deformer is the offset. So let's go back and take a look. I want to show you something else here. about the deformer. So you see those handles? So it pulls, and both of the handles sort of affect each other. It's kind of like a teeter-totter, right? When I do that, it makes a nice wave. However, the offset doesn't. When I move this one, the other one stays there, and so it creates a pinch, and so therefore you don't really want to use the offset. The offset kind of stays there, and you just usually you don't want to touch it. So basically you want to put the offset in a spot where you're not going to be using it. So don't put the offset on the sides. So let's go back and check out the shoulder here. And I'm going to put the offset right over here because I don't think I'll be using this area too much. So here we go. Click, hold, and drag. Go to the next spot. Click, hold, and drag. Go to the next spot. Click, hold, drag towards the last one. It's hard to see because of the white there. Click, hold, and drag, and then close the envelope by holding Alt and just hovering over the offset. And then we can fix it a little bit. Now I think I will like a display on the shoulder. So Control Y, come over here, display. Yeah, see, look, I added another vertex here by accident. You see that? So be aware if you mess up. Your mouth has to be very, very accurate when you're doing deformers. It takes some time to get used to, but after like the third or fourth, deformer that you set up, you're good to go. So now, if I need to change the shape of the shoulder, I'll be able to do that. It's gorgeous. It's perfect. So now let's say I want to shape this arm into this arm here. I could just by doing this. You can also make it a little bit bigger. And we can grab the shoulder and just do this. There's a truck going by on my street. Apologies if you're hearing that. So now the shoulder looks like this. And maybe, maybe that forearm can be like that, right? And maybe we can rotate the bolt a little bit when he gets to this spot. Right. But we do have a problem. The bicep needs a deformer as well. So let's just reset the entire arm. So here's my arm. I can reset everything by clicking on the backdrop, hitting R. It resets the arm over here, and then I can also hit this button up here, which resets the deformers. Let's put a deformer on this bicep here. Here's the bicep. Put a display on it so we can isolate it. I want to make sure to save as well. Click, hold, drag, click, hold, drag, click, hold, drag, click, hold, drag, and Alt and close. Then adjust. Kind of like that. And then that's it. So now if I bring that arm over here, you can see that the arm on the side is a lot wider than the front view of the arm. That's why deformers are important, because you can just do that. And we can also, this is the tricep here. The tricep could also use a deformer. And if Flash, is moving his arm like this, we could do that. We could do that, and then pare it down, and then move this part of his arm here. so that the shoulder continues to look okay. Now this is a complex character. I decided to go all out for my lessons because I think it's easier if I give a lesson with a character that's very difficult, and then you could maybe just simplify it with your characters if you're starting out. But if you want to do a complex character, then this is how you'd go about doing it. So I guess that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, I think I'm going to tackle, maybe the leg or the torso. I'm going to check that out. So if you like the video, please leave a like, subscribe, comment, share this video out there. Leave me a little message, and I'll see you in the next one.